The Ultimate Marvel Universe has always been a bait and switch since the moment that Jonathan Hickman started writing this. I don't know why it got so popular. Jonathan Hickman, I don't really even like his writing that much. It's just always bogged down. If you read his X-Men stuff just before this, it's always very, very convoluted. He sets up this like world building that's super intensive and then really doesn't follow it up with much of a story. This is very much the case with what happened with Ultimate Spider-Man. Everybody just saw that Peter Parker and Mary Jane were married on the cover of the first one. They're like, yes, this is what we want out of Spider-Man. And then it turned out like he was just going to stand around and nothing would happen for like a zillion issues over and over and over again. The universe that was built around this is interesting. There's a problem with the maker who, is basically rewriting so superheroes didn't exist, and they're trying to be underground about it. And so this has spawned a bunch of different books in this line because Ultimate Spider-Man sold so well. They then did Ultimate Black Panther to ride off of its coattails. Of course, Marvel, chooses the Wakanda Forever Black character to be its second herald in the universe because they want to push the diversity thing. And, of course, that wouldn't sell by itself. No sort of Black Panther book ever does well by itself. But riding the coattails of this really quickly, they could do that. Then they did a bizarre thing with Ultimate X-Men hiring Peach Momoko, who's like this like horror manga writer who, like, when she does her own work, it's pretty interesting stuff. But with X-Men, it just isn't X-Men. In fact, it's not really men. It's a bunch of like teenage girls going around talking about having periods and the like. It was very, very weird. I dropped it after a couple of issues. But perhaps the worst of all was the Ultimates. The Ultimates is written by Deniz Camp, and Deniz Camp is a rabid serial leftist SJW activist who just tries to put wokeness into all of his books, and that's exactly what he did with this. He turned Hawkeye into this they, them, Indian, two-spirit, whatever, I don't even understand what it is, new pronouns garbage. He made America Chavez one of the most hated characters in Marvel Comics, a replacement character that they built back in the last time Marvel tried to push wokeness as like the crux of his whole team. He then, of course, had the Hulk turn into a Polynesian woman who just lectured the Avengers about being white colonizers. It was really, really painful. The guy is an admitted drug addict. He smokes weed to the point where he doesn't even know what day it is, I think. And this is what he does with his books every single time. It's always woke activism, and he hates most Americans and wants us all dead as an immigrant, right? That's how he is. This is where these people act all the time, and this is who they hired to do everything. I don't understand why your boy Zacks of the world are going, comics are good now. Comics are good now. It's the same people doing the same thing over and over and over again. And Marvel right now really is just botching it with no continuity in what's left. So it's been announced recently that they're going to be ending this Ultimate Universe, and it was always planned this way. And they're talking like they're like not excited about it, like they're shocked by it, etc. But I think this was planned from the start, and I think that what's going to happen out of this is it's not going to end. I think they're going to be doing a kayfabe gimmick thing because this is what the comic industry does with everything. So let's get into this news in just a moment. Please smash that like and subscribe button. Join us here as we talk about all things comics, and I appreciate you guys for being here. This is the article that came out of New York Comic Con. Ultimate Universe architect Jonathan Hickman didn't expect Marvel Comics to close the line down. Okay, well, it's the top of the sales, right? They wouldn't close a line down at the top of the sales. We know exactly what's going to happen here because excitement has diminished about it. They have spread this line too thin. They've got Ultimate Wolverine now, Ultimate Endgame, too many books, and this is what Marvel always does. They can't just let one book tell a story. They have to do a whole freaking line to get everybody to try to buy, $30, $40 worth of books per month in it to keep up with everything that's going on. That's the trick that Marvel and DC has done for a long, long time. And of course, they gin it up with variant covers and gimmicks and things like that. This is, to me, another gimmick that's coming in, and I'll talk about it after I talk about Jonathan Hickman's reveal about this. If the news that Marvel is closing up its Ultimate Universe in April 26th, just after 2 years worth of stories surprised fans as it was announced at New York Comic Con, they can take some small amount of solace from the fact that the Ultimate Universe architect wasn't expecting the decision either. So this tells me one of two things. Either sales have fallen off so badly at this point for most of the line that it's barely making its weight, even though Ultimate Spider-Man's still selling well, or they're doing something that's going to be a gimmick with this, right? So he says, we were at one of these creative retreats. I was sitting next to him talking about the publisher, Dan Buckley. We're just talking, and he's like, well, we're finishing our stories. Then you could do that. And I said, no, you're done. Buckley remembered, I was by myself with John. Jonathan's looking at me. He goes, what do you mean we're done? I said, we're shutting it down. He goes, why are we shutting it down? I said, it's the end, right? So he says he's going to be ending things here. For those who have not been following, it's 2023. Ultimate Invasion series by Hickman and Brian Hitch set up a specific timeline of the imprint by imprisoning the maker, an alternate reality, Reed Richards, who has been manipulating the timeline of the Ultimate Universe, in a prison that would open in 24 months. Because the comics take place in real time, coincides with the first issue of Ultimate Endgame launching in December 2025. It turns out that even though Hickman had written a 2-year and done storyline, he didn't think Marvel would cancel the entire line. Buckley, however, felt it was important to do so. There's a lot of story being told here. You'll be able to take this journey, take the beginning, middle, and end, digest it for years to come, and be able to pass it on to people and say, this is the experiment. This is the type of storytelling. We're allowed to do this, Buckley explained, arguing that allowing this incarnation of the Ultimate Universe to stand apart from anything before was an important statement of creative intent. We're not going to do this with the Marvel Universe, he declared. This is more about a group of creators getting together and saying, this is what I see as a story. We want to have a beginning, middle, and end. So I guess that's what they were doing. Jonathan Hickman obviously was ending his story, but I guess he expected the stuff down the line to keep going. Now, the stuff on the line doesn't go without Jonathan Hickman stuff, so it's obvious that it wouldn't. They're all just riding his coattails with people wanting to get the rest of the story, the details that are behind his story. That's the entire deal. Now, like I said, Ultimate Spider-Man really just didn't go anywhere. It's a flop of a story. It started out with an interesting premise where it's a mystery of what's going on, but then it just went nowhere, and it didn't deliver what it wants. You barely see Spider-Man in costume whatsoever. Like, it's like an anti-superhero story, like always. I'm getting bored of this type of thing across fiction all the way around. It's like these people don't know how to write anymore. Now, speaking of people who don't know how to write, Deniz Camp chimed in on this with a thread, and he goes into some of the stuff where I'm going to, of course, talk about, and then talk about what they really mean by all of this. It's the end of the Ultimate Universe. It's true that the original plan was not the end of the universe. A lot of this run is setting up characters I hoped would go on past me, so he was going to end his run there too. I think they've made that clear and obvious, but John was ending his run at 24. That was always the case. He was done. And Peach and Brian, those are Ultimate X-Men and Black Panther writers, both ending their stories when the Maker got out as well. That was their decision, according to what I've been told my interactions with them. It all makes sense. Think about it. Peach is writing and drawing every issue for 24 issues. That's insane. She works like 20 hours a day on the book. No joke. She's the hero of the line. She deserves a break if she wants one. And yes, like I said, she's got talent. She shouldn't be on an X-Men title because it's not X-Men. Wolverine, it was only meant to be 12, then it got extended to 16, so they're milking it already, and this is already milked about as far as it's going. If you're reading between the lines, these side books are not making their money back, and that's what's happening right now. And so without Jonathan Hickman there to prop up Ultimate Spider-Man, it's not going to work all the way down the line, and that's what the business decision is here. Initially, it was still very early. Those books were going to end as those creators left. Ultimates would have continued and new books launched. I was pushing for Hawkeye, the they, them, two-spirit, right? Guardians was discussed. This was all very vague. But then Will Moss came to me and said, hey, I think it's going to end it. This was a long time ago, at least a year before now. I think I'd have to check. Not because the books are too woke. This is pretty interesting. He immediately delves into the woke situation, and he made Ultimates extremely woke. And of course, X-Men replacement with X-Girls is pretty woke too. Black Panther being at the forefront of this is pretty woke a concept too. So you've turned everything into minorities and gays and women, just like you do everything. And this was intentional. Deniz Camp wants to do this intentionally. Jonathan Hickman, I don't know as much. I don't know too much about him about that, and he tends to not be super like ranty politically like these guys. But he did actually replace Catwoman, or I'm sorry, not Catwoman, Black Cat, with a black character. I mean, so all of this stuff's still going on just like everything else in media. It's the same thing. Now, what this says is that Marvel didn't give him any notes about being too woke. He was totally allowed to be as woke as he wanted. And this is what Marvel, of course, allows. Editorial is not, of course, reining things in. Nobody's gotten better about this stuff. Anybody who's telling you so is completely lying. Deniz Camp says so himself. If it were that, they'd interfere with the writing of it, which they haven't. And this admits tacitly, the writing is extremely woke. And it needs to be interfered with, right? If they want to actually make a story that appeals to everybody, that appeals to standard readers, they needed to do something about it here. And the editors didn't. They were allowed to go as woke as they wanted. There you are right now. It's not gone in 2025. Marvel's as woke as it's ever been. Or that the main line is jealous. It's silly money is money to them. Everything seemed to be coming to a natural conclusion. They then felt that they had something special with the universe as it was, etc. The purity of the vision, it's over, blah, blah, blah. And he keeps going. Now, I don't think it's over. I think this is bullshit. And I think that this is kayfabe. And I think that this is a stunt. And I think they're ending it. I think they're ginning up publicity for the ending. We're all taken aback. We weren't expecting it to end. We wanted it to go on. Just we're done with our story parts. Yeah, right. This was never going to go on past whatever Jonathan Hickman was going to do because it wouldn't sell past that. And that's very, very obvious. So this is interesting here, but doesn't mean Jonathan Hickman's actually out of this and that this is actually done, because Hickman's wrote other Ultimate stuff in the past in that other Ultimate Universe-ish that he kind of respun off last time. So what are they probably going to end up doing here? They're going to finish this off. They're going to tout this like Ultimate Endgame as some big thing for speculators, of course, everybody to come in and buy, and they're going to end it. And then what's going to happen? Well, you know what's going to happen. 2026 or 2027 is going to roll around, and they're going to launch it again with an all-new #1 first issue Ultimates. Because you demanded it, we came back, but this is the #1 issue, everybody, with 15,000 variant covers for you to pick up. It's all a gimmick. It's all fake. There aren't actual endings in any of this stuff. There aren't actual #1s in any of this stuff. They put it on there, but it's like, I mean, how many Ultimate #1s have we had at this point? It's ridiculous, right? I can't keep track. Is this Ultimates #1, #5? I can count. I think it's 5. Do you count Ultimate Avengers in that too? I don't know. They relabel things all the time. And I think it's just another sales gimmick with this. But here's the truth. They're all woke. They're pushing the wokeness. They aren't getting interfered with it. They're proud of it. And this is what they do no matter what. So these aren't good stories. These aren't stories that stand the last time. There's nothing that's really coming out of this. Nothing really happened in this. You've got 100 issues plus worth of content here. And like, it really should have been done in like 6 issues. It's really ridiculous. But this is the type of storytelling that they do now. Super decompressed, overly aggressive world building with zero just action going on and a bunch of navel gazing about identity politics. That's all Marvel is. That's all Marvel will be. And don't buy this. This is just a hype train being a hype train. Leave a comment down below with what you think about this. Please hit the like and subscribe button. We'll be back soon.